Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody, and the
Woohoo!
regular season premiere of Under the Radar. Can you believe that? It's the first show of the season.
All
Uh,
right. Too bad we don't have anything to talk about.
yeah, just a few things to talk about. I'm
Yeah.
your host, Chad Sherwood. Have David Griggs up here next to me. Joining us from Bracketeer.org and from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is
I,
Rocco Miller. Uh,
I want to know
First,
why he got sent to Myrtle Beach and I didn't.
because he has a lot bigger budget
Okay.
at his website than we do at ours. That's why.
Why are you paying for me? You should have covered my expenses to go there. I would have done it.
Rock, are you there for the event? The Myrtle Beach non Myrtle Beach Invitational, whatever you want to call it, the Conway
The
Invitational.
Conway
The,
invitation.
yeah, I'm here for the Conway Invitational. It's a nice. Apparently, it's a 20-mile ride back and forth from the beach, but we aren't supposed to tell America that. We're supposed to call it the Myrtle Beach Invitational. So yeah, I'm here to watch some basketball, Chad. If that's your question.
Yes, and you were with everybody that I know that I follow on Twitter. I think last night at the
Yes.
Queens game in North Carolina. One
I
stayed
was
up,
there. I
and
got thrown out at
you
halftime,
got
but
a
I was
good
there.
game too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The puppet got in a fight with the Queen's Royal mascot. It was incredible. Chad, everybody was there except for you. I don't know why you didn't
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't quite make it. Couldn't quite make it almost. This is our Under the Radar show, though, and for those of you that are new to the website, what we mean by Under the Radar is teams that are not in leagues that routinely receive multiple bids to the NCAA tournament. These teams can receive multiple bids. These leagues can receive multiple bids, but normally they don't. Uh, so conferences like the Power Conferences and the Big East and the American, Mountain West, the West Coast, even at least for now, the Atlantic 10, those are not under the radar. We deal with them Monday night during our Hoops HD report. We may be visiting the Atlantic 10 on this show before the season's over, but for now, they are
Right.
not under the radar. And Griggs, our other disqualifier is you cannot be in the top 25 in either the AP or the coaches poll. If you are, that individual team is not under the radar.
Right. If you're in the rankings, you're on the radar, which means that we might not get to see James Madison even once this year.
Uh, yes, James
Uh,
Madison, number 24 in the AP poll. So we will not be discussing them during the show, but we will be discussing the rest of the Sun Belt Conference. They are fair
Yeah.
game. Uh,
Right.
uh,
And, they're on the radar, so they're going to be on the Hoops HD report.
what we like doing these shows is go through these 22 leagues kind of in alphabetical order. We have some fun at the end of the show, some of our mythical conferences and the like. But we do pick one feature conference, and I did not tell you guys who this conference was. I think I normally just kind of surprise you with it,
You
but
do.
I think it's a conference that is very worthy of it, believe it or not. Uh, After just 1 week of 1.5 weeks this season,
I bet
has
I can guess it.
quite a
If this
few.
is a merit-based pick, it's the Ivy League, and they are outperforming a lot of leagues that are not under the radar.
There they are, the Ivy League. I believe that Cornell is just about to suffer their first loss. I think the game just going final as we're recording this. They lost at George Mason tonight. But Rocco, how about what these teams, especially Princeton, off to a great 3-0 start. Yale, although they lost at Gonzaga, and Penn has the win over Villanova.
Agreed, Chad. Like really necessary place to start because the top of the Ivy, at least these top five teams, and I'll even throw Harvard in there because I think two of
Yeah.
Harvard's three wins have really surprised me. I didn't expect them to go down to Houston and handle Rice the way they did. Rice has a lot of good players back, an all conference player, and even at the American Conference standards. They go down there and they take it to them. And then last night, Harvard Crimson goes and plays Northeastern at home, usually a good rivalry, tight game. They beat them by 24. So Harvard is analytically really blowing up, kind of the unsung hero so far of the league. But I think Penn made a lot of noise, obviously, with the Villanova win. Really cool for them, regardless of Villanova. I think the big story there was the Quakers have a freshman player that really is bursting onto the scene. And I think there's a little bubble. It's Tyler Perkins, by the way. But
Yeah.
with with the way that college basketball has transformed in the last handful of years, whether it be transfer portal, whether it be the COVID year, whether it be COVID itself, the Ivy League's been in this really unique position where, okay, you're in an Ivy League school. We have Ivy League standards. You have to be admitted. You have to go through this entirely almost different hierarchy than any other league for an athlete. And if you're able to get through all that, you can play on our team. But then, transfer portal wise, if you want to transfer out, you're free to go. Look at Jordan Dingle at St. John's. If you want to transfer in, it's not going to happen unless you're a graduate. So this whole bubble's formed.
No, Rock, they don't take grad transfers in any Ivy League.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Sorry about that. So there's no transfer portal at all.
Yeah.
And that's even further to my point where these rosters and the continuity, they have to come together that way if any of these teams are going to bubble up to the top. And the fact that 4 or 5 of them are starting to do that right here in the first week of the year is starting to show that they've got something to offer that no other league can offer. And I think that's really what the story is about right now.
Right. And
a quick little live update here.
Okay.
Cornell did just go final, so you see Cornell suddenly falls to 3-1 with that loss to George Mason tonight. But
Rocco made a lot of
good start.
Rocco made a lot of really good points, and this is something we touched on in the preseason preview show, that the Ivy League has been sort of, as you would expect, untouched by conference realignment and untouched by the portal rules, because again, they still recruit freshmen. They don't lose a lot of players to the portal, and they don't take grad transfers. And yet the strength of the league appears to have gone up, not down, despite them. And it is it despite it, Rocco, or is it maybe because they don't, they're unimpacted by all these other changes that are in college sports? Like, is that somehow actually advantageous to them?
It's becoming that way because you look at the kind of kid that wants to go to one of these schools. You can't paint a broad brush about it, but
right.
You're talking about most of these guys are education first guys. And so, the temptation to transfer or the temptation to go get some NIL right now versus getting an Ivy League degree, like that balance is not really there, but it is for almost every other league. So it's created this dynamic. So you look at teams like Cornell, you look at teams like Yale,
and they retain their rosters from year to year.
Like Cornell and Yale, to me, like coming into the year, they're like, holy crap, these guys got everybody back. They're going to be dangerous.
Everybody.
and then even a Harvard team who's got like sophomores and juniors, even though they're not as old as those two, but they're dangerous now.
But then you throw it on top. Point, Go ahead, Rocco.
Sorry. No, I'm just saying at that point, because especially in the non-conference, it's really showing up, and that's why we're having such a great conversation about it, is you're going up against these teams that are transforming in a year. Like even Rice Owls are going to like great education school, but they could turn their roster over. You're dealing with all these lineups and shuffling. So November, December is all about finding the right rotation. Whereas your Harvards, your Cornells, your Princetons, your Yales, your Penns, your even Brown, like they knew their rotation like 6 months ago.
Yeah, they did.
So in November, that's a huge advantage.
And you look at Princeton though. They lost a lot off last year's team, but last year they were a Sweet 16 team, and here they are. They have 3 road wins to start the season at teams that played postseason basketball last year. Rutgers, Hofstra, and Duquesne.
Yeah. And they have 2 more road games coming up with Monmouth and Old Dominion. But they took that on, and man, they're looking really smart for that. And that's kind of a nice pun on the Ivy League.
Right. And is this, with its format, 8 teams, it hasn't even bloated itself out. I mean, it's the same it was. Is this a multi-bid league? I think it is. I mean,
I hope you're right.
They got a long, long way to go to get there, Griggs. We are only 10 days into the season. But here is the upcoming schedule in the Ivy League, and there are quite a few games to circle here, including Harvard with a couple of in-state rivals, including getting the Boston College back on their schedule again this year.
Yeah, time.
And Yale going up to the Atlantic Slam, where they're going to be playing Colgate Gardner-Webb, and really circle this middle game Saturday against Weaver State, 2 teams that have made some noise already this season. Yale.
That's a great game. Oh my God,
that event is awesome. And I'll just a quick note. I got to say something about it because I helped those guys build it. But like the cool thing about the Atlantic Slam is the province of New Brunswick is putting that together. So unlike any other tournament.
Wait, Rocco. I was going to go up to Rutgers to watch these games. I thought they were in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
I like that.
I know you have a passport. Damn it.
Oh,
It's actually in a small minor league hockey town called Moncton, New Brunswick. They built a 8,500 seat minor league hockey arena that's state of the art, beautiful arena. Our website bracketeer.org did an article on it in the summer. Anyway, the really unique thing they've done here is it's all financed by the province because they want to increase the popularity of basketball to the whole country of Canada and more minuscule down to the province of New Brunswick. B is they did something very different than any other tournament's doing. They're bringing 3 of the top Canadian high school teams and the top team from Lithuania that they handpicked to play a 4-team high school event on the same days as the college games. So, and they're going to run those games 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. in the morning, and then the college games will be in the afternoon and evening time. So that way, college coaches can come down, and these are all very recruitable, capable D1 players on these 4 teams coming there. Come down, grab a cup of coffee, watch these kids play, build relationships. Anyway, what the Atlantic Slam has built is something I haven't seen before, and it's a really unique, really cool idea. And the fact that it's the first year and they got 3 of the 4 teams are picked to win their league, and then you have Gardner Webb as the 4th team, who is, if you look at the last 10 years of Big South history, Tim Kraft has taken the Running Bulldogs to a winning record in the Big South 9 out of 10 years.
yeah.
That's a very successful program as well. So you've got 4 successful programs. I mean, I think it's just a beautiful thing if you love basketball.
Yeah, get ready for a rule change. This will be the only year that because it's not a contact period, but because they're at the event, they're allowed to attend those games. It's just that no one's ever done this before with high school players. Next year, there will be a rule probably passed this summer that if high schools are participating in an event that you're at, you're not allowed to watch it. But this year you can. Go get a cup of coffee and check it out. It's within the rules.
Is that true though for foreign high schools? Because all these high schools are
It
foreign.
is.
Foreign.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Well, good job. Good for these 6 schools at least getting a chance
Yeah.
to watch this year. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you would have to watch the game on TV or something, and
Right.
it'd be completely different.
Yeah.
We can get into Michigan football here, but we won't. Let's jump over to the rest of our leagues and start things off here with the America East, which Rocco saw what I would argue is the biggest win in Lowell basketball history last night at Georgia Tech. I know they won a game at BC a few years ago also.
They won
I
it.
think this was
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit bigger, if not at least tied with that. But how about those Riverhawks?
Riverhawks are awesome, Chad. I think, yeah, I think the ceiling is pretty high, and I don't say that a lot about under the radar teams. I just think the fact that you bring back a guy like Abdul Kareem Koulibaly, Ayinde Hakeem is back, Cam Morris is back, Braden O'Connor, he had a good freshman year last year. Like basically everybody's back from a really good Riverhawk team that was pieced together in the portal, surprised a lot of people last year. Didn't get talked about enough in the offseason based on the fact that Vermont's in their league and Bryant has a big other story. But I think the Riverhawks are kind of a sleeping giant. If you run, and again, it's so early in the year, so some of this could blow up in my face in a week. But the way it stands right now, if you run a lot of different analytical reports, the UMass Lowell Riverhawks are performing literally like a top 30 team, even against Power Fives.
You could see their ESPN strength of resume on the screen there at 13th in the nation, which is
yeah.
now a lot of these metrics are just way too early to really to gauge.
Right.
But hey, that's a hell of a number.
I think it's just something. They're just a team that definitely needs more attention. Definitely is dangerous. And when I woke up yesterday, before the Georgia Tech game started, I was like, Georgia Tech's got a brand new roster, brand new coach. This is right in UMass Lowell's wheelhouse. It ended up being a little closer than I thought. I actually thought UMass Lowell would win comfortably, if you can believe that. But they sure enough they did win the game.
Yeah. So are they I guess are they the front runners in this league?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you tomorrow morning. I'll tell you tomorrow morning.
You're going to be seeing you're going to be seeing Vermont at the event there, and beginning with that Charleston game, the first game tomorrow. So
it's going to be an awesome game because we all know Charleston's a terrific team.
That's a great game. Yeah.
We're going to learn a lot about Vermont whoever they play this week, but it's certainly in that first game.
We will. Yeah.
Might learn a little more about Lowell too. They got a nice cross country trip to Arizona State tomorrow night before they
Mhm.
come back east to play St. Peter's on Monday. So
That would be disappointing to see them not win that one.
Yeah, Arizona State's got a lot of issues. If you watch their opener, like they
Oh,
were
yeah,
troublesome, very
yeah.
troublesome. But that's a lot of
uh,
travel. It's a lot of
That is a
travel
lot of
for
trout. Yeah.
Griggs, over in the ASUN conference, I mean, everybody in Eastern Kentucky has already lost a game, which is not a very good start for this league.
It's not, and a lot of this, I mean, if you start looking at it, is just the economics of the sport. A lot of teams go out from under the radar, and they do lose because they're playing road bye games. Eastern Kentucky not playing one yet, but that being said, I still like them more than anyone else in the league. Lipscomb, I'm a
Well,
little surprised that they're off to I don't want to say a slow start, but I thought they'd be a little bit better than what they've been so far. I thought this would be a two-horse race between Lipscomb and EKU, and it still could be. Like as we keep repeating, it's very early.
well,
Uh,
Lipscomb did pick up one of the two best wins the conference has now. They won
yeah,
at Tennessee Tech. North Florida won at Charleston Southern. Neither is a really notable win.
yeah, neither's no,
Uh,
yeah.
or maybe it was Queens' win last night that Rocco mentioned against High Point is the best
I
conference
was
win.
kicked out before the game ended. I got
At
in a
least
fight with the
I
Raw
mentioned those
last
other two
night.
because they were road wins, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say on Lipscomb's behalf, Olga Sevic, their best player, all conference player, he's out. He's been out the first 4 games.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think he's out like a month. So they've
Ooh, God, I didn't.
been really
Okay,
shorthanded. And
yeah,
Acuff's a good coach, guys.
he's
So
real good.
um,
Yeah.
those those first two games they were outmanned, especially without their star. But the fact that they didn't have Olga Savage last night against Tennessee Tech, and they went out and beat them by 30 plus. I mean, I think
A
just
lot of teams are going to
Lipscomb.
be beating Tennessee Tech by 30 plus this year.
Okay,
Yeah,
but it was still like a
yeah,
nice little checkpoint where like, okay, we're still here, guys. Don't forget about us.
right, yeah.
Quick break here to just mention that our good friend John Slika has jumped into the podcast a little bit late. John, we are not going to start over for you. Sorry. Uh, we are
We
in the middle of
started
the
with the
ASUN.
Ivy. That was the feature conference.
We are in the ASUN and just taking a quick look at the upcoming schedule here. And I don't, I think any major wins here might be wins of note from this league, given the rough start. But you look ahead to uh, let's see where Lipscomb even is there. They're hosting Alabama A&M up there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
Eastern Kentucky finally gets a D1 game Friday night against Tennessee Martin.
a quick note about Bellarmine. They did submit a waiver to the NCAA to try and gain postseason eligibility this year. While it was not basketball, it still does not bode well that James Madison's football waiver was denied today. Same thing, a transitional program trying to ask for relief to be able to play in the postseason. We want Bellarmine to get it, but we don't think they're going to.
Yeah, 3 waivers actually by James Madison, by Jacksonville State, both to try to get to bowl games, by Tarleton to get into the FCS playoffs, all denied. Doesn't
Yeah,
bode well, as you said, for Bellarmine.
right.
Uh, Slika, now that you've joined us, let's go to you for the Big Sky Conference, which had an extremely notable win uh,
Ooh.
out of Weber State. One of the most surprising wins I've seen all season. I did not see this one coming when they went to St. Mary's on Sunday night.
Well, we were thinking highly of Weber State as far as the Big Sky would go right here, but St. Mary's, you go messing with the Beehive and you'll get stung. But that was not the only notable game in the conference this week, though. Portland State also quietly gets a nice win in the Thunderdome at UC Santa Barbara, so we may have to pay a little attention to the Vikings as well. Although, as we get to it later, maybe UCSB not the team that we thought they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocco. I am impressed by Portland State as well, but obviously did not make the headlines that Weber did.
Didn't make the headlines we did. Portland State also opened the year with a surprise. To me, I was surprised they won at Air Force to
I
open the
was
year.
too.
I mean, that's a tough place to win, especially for a Big Sky team to go into altitude. And Air Force is what they are. They could be last in the league, but they are always tough at home. So awesome win for Jace Coburn. And then the Santa Barbara game, we could touch on this a little bit further on the Big West segment, but unfortunately for them, AJ Mitchell hasn't been available, so that's that's a whole different team without AJ. So, but hey, that's not about Portland State. What Portland State was about is like, hey, we got these 2 road games. We're going to take it by storm. They're getting great play from guys like Isaiah Johnson, KJ Allen. KJ Allen, I don't know if you guys watch Netflix at all, but he was the star on Last Chance U basketball like 4 years ago on the East LA Community College team.
Mhm.
Played for Texas Tech, USC. They wouldn't put him in the game, so now he's playing for Portland State. He's like awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some cool stuff brewing out of Portland. And then I think the Weber State thing. I've tweeted about it a few times. Dylan Jones is an unbelievably special talent. There's no doubt in
He
my
is.
mind. There's no doubt in my mind. Out of all the under the radar, he's clearly the best player. He's an NBA player. He's probably a first round pick. And I think if he was in the NBA draft last year, he was a second rounder. I think is safe to say. And so two really surprising things occurred. One, he decided to come back. Two, he decided not to transfer up to a higher conference. So Weber State is just living the good life right now. And in that game, that St. Mary's game, they were down 16 at one point.
Yeah, they were.
Weber went on a 14-0 run. And Dylan Jones, he was making all the big shots, of course. But a lot of the other guys around him have improved. And that's one of the unsung things of having a great player, especially in under the radar, is when you have somebody, and we've talked about these types of stories over the years together. When you have such a great player like that, it almost naturally, organically makes everybody else a little bit more confident, a little bit more better, just like we're going to get this done. And I think that's what makes under the radar special. Like I was at New Mexico, St. Mary's 3 nights before that, and Jalen House, their star player, was not available. New Mexico did not behave that way because they're a collection of transfer portal guys, just a lot of talent from all over the place. Whereas Weber State's like, we're Dylan Jones or nothing. And then when Dylan Jones makes big shots, it makes the other 4 guys play that much better. So that's the beauty of under the radar.
Yeah. And here's the upcoming schedules for these two teams we just mentioned. Weber in that Atlantic Slam we discussed already over in the Ivy League. Portland State is going to be at California Baptist's MTE event, round robin, where they're going to get the Lancers, followed by Cal Poly and St. Thomas 3 straight days. So,
and we mentioned that game already. Weber State, that might be the game of the day, not just the under the radar game of the day, the game of the day.
It's a tough one to digest because they're all playing so many times in a row. It's like, that's going to be a great game, but like, what is their fatigue going to look like? All that.
Presbyterian is after the 3-0 start in the Big South, highlighted by their win. Was at Vanderbilt, correct? Is that what opened the season?
Yes.
Other than that, they've beaten Columbia International, the Citadel, so not really much more. But again, another conference grades where unfortunately there's not much we could say other than Presby's big win so far this season. I guess Radford, a fairly nice win over Marshall.
Yeah, Radford's been kind of a surprise. Nice win over Marshall. I thought they handled themselves pretty well at Duke. I know that they ended up losing by a lot, but they were in the game for longer than I thought they'd be. The team that I'm sort of down on is UNC Asheville, and they didn't. I mean, they just got clobbered by 2 admittedly good teams, Michigan and Wilmington. But this was a team that I thought would, even if they didn't win either of those games, look a little bit better than what they did. I mean, they just got dump trucked.
Yeah, they kind of did it. And, USC Upstate, another team I'll just throw us out there. They picked up a pretty nice win tonight at East Carolina, being a road win.
Huge.
But they had lost to Vanderbilt, who Presbyterian could beat, so let's still keep them a notch behind Presbyterian. But the upcoming schedule here in the Big South Conference, that's we maybe a few weeks away from them getting a little bit better here. But Presbyterian is, I believe, North Florida is going to be hosting this event that they're at. They're at North Florida, and they're also going to play Maine and Northwestern State this weekend, the next 3 days here.
And I'll just say this: like Gardner Webb's a contender eventually in this league. They're going to go play Weber State on Friday and then Colgate Yale. I think, even if they go over the Atlantic Slam, I think that event is going to help that team down the road, no matter what happens. Because you go and play 3 teams that quality in a row, you're automatically going to learn a ton about yourselves. And that's what Gardner Webb was fortunate enough to sign up for.
Yeah. Meanwhile, UNC Asheville's going to be playing Virginia Lynchburg and learning nothing about themselves. So
right,
that's why you play. That's why you play these events.
Excellent point.
You don't play teams like that.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
Stalika, over in the Big West Conference, you hinted at it. So do you want to talk a little bit about this 0-2 Gauchos team, or that Rocco mentioned being shorthanded though?
I think I'd rather talk about UC Irvine getting a win at a
Ooh.
Pac-12 school for the second year in a row. Last year, they win at Oregon and sent the Ducks into a year-long tailspin. This year, they actually go into the Galen Center and get a 10-point win against the Trojans. So it's going to obviously put a target on UC Irvine's back with UC Santa Barbara coming up short against Portland State and also at UTEP last night.
Yeah, quick note, you see UC San Diego in red there. That's because they're ineligible for the postseason. I believe this is their final year of their transition, at least.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
no waiver for them, and I don't think they've even applied for one. But right now, leading the way here in the Big West. It's another conference that we gotta get some games under their belt here. Also, Hawaii finally played their first game of the season two nights ago.
It was
and
against
haven't
yeah.
Hawaii Hilo.
against
The
Hilo.
Vulcans.
Although we are now minting it as the Hawaii 5-0 conference. We got to get this one here. We got to get all the Hawaii schools. Unfortunately, we only found 4 that actually play basketball, not 5. But ever since BYU Hawaii discontinued the sport.
Well, the thing about the Eaters win at USC, and I guess it was the same last year at Oregon, was that they never really were not in control of that game. And this was a USC team that had gone out and beaten K-State, whereas Oregon ended up not being as good as we thought they were going to be. SC had already played and won against a pretty good team. What happened?
Well, I think the obvious is Boogie Ellis and Kobe Johnson were both out. And Kobe Johnson is arguably the best defensive player in the country. Boogie Ellis is potentially the Pac-12 player for the year. So missing both those guys opened the window for an upset. But that has nothing to do with Irvine. It's not their fault. They still had to go out and beat a lot of other good USC players, which they have a lot of. And they're a very deep team. And
real deep.
I think Eaters deserve all the credit in the world. Like everything you guys said, I'm 100% behind you on. I just think for the audience, USC was clearly a little shorthanded. But that's what a well-coached team does. You have an opportunity like that, you go take advantage of it, and that's why they're such a great program year in and year out.
One team to keep an eye on this week, actually beginning early of next week, Long Beach State, a team that we kind of like heading this season, heading to Florida for the Gulf Coast Showcase with a bunch of other under-the-radar teams, but there are some interesting potential matchups there. They start with Illinois State. They could get Iona in that event or High Point. They could get a Wright State or a Hofstra in that event. This could be a chance for them to make a little bit of noise early next week.
I would love to ask Griggs about High Point, but he got kicked out last night.
Yeah, I mean,
well, Rocco, why don't I ask you about the Coastal Athletic Conference? No longer the Colonial, the Coastal, with Wilmington off to a very nice start with that win over Asheville. Very nice win over Asheville.
Yeah, they go into Asheville's gym and just completely demolish them. and I mean, I guess like in some ways it's almost the different. I don't want to say it's the difference between the Coastal Athletic Association and the Big South. Because in some cases there's really not a huge difference. Obviously, there's a big difference in budgets. And Asheville came into the year with an all-star Drew Pember player that you figured they had the chance to make the next leap, but they've kind of run into some brick walls early, and that was probably the biggest warning sign. But I think the story about Wilmington is they've got so many seniors and experienced guys, whether it's Shaquem Phillips or Nick Farrar or Malik Harden-Hayes. Like this is a solid team built to contend. They, at this time last year, we all thought they were going to be neck and neck with Charleston throughout the campaign. And then they lost that one game to Charleston in January and then sort of faded as we got to March. But these guys have now been through the ringer. They all decided to come back together. I think it's a team that a lot of people are sleeping on.
And Charleston already has a loss to Duquesne, a team that Princeton even beat. So that puts
I
Charleston
like the Duquesne team. I like how Towson's played.
Duquesne is not yet under the radar. But not yet.
But Duquesne beat Charleston. Yes.
Yes.
Duquesne did beat Charleston. Delaware also after a 4-0 start. They won their rivalry game over Delaware State tonight, 78-67.
I'm very impressed by Delaware. Yeah. I just say keep an eye on the Hens because they're potentially dangerous. Actually,
I think so too. Especially after seeing them. I know they don't have any like wins that are going to probably at least singular wins that are going to jump off their team sheet, but they've looked good.
They have,
Here's
and they have
that.
a winnable event as well.
Yeah.
Yep, here's the entire upcoming schedule. I think the key game is just as it was in the America East. It is Charleston against Vermont tomorrow. Rocco will be there along with being at about 30 other games tomorrow as well, I think.
Yeah. Rocco's got his jet ready. He's gonna
Also,
be
keep an eye
flying
on
around.
the Monmouth
game day.
Hawks right here.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
team
Monmouth.
that came off of a win at West Virginia. They'll get to host an undefeated Princeton team on Saturday and then host Lehigh at the Hawks Nest on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, the cool thing there, Stalika, is Xander Rice. I don't think we talked about this on the preseason show of Under the Radar. So I just quick shout out. It's clearly King Rice's son. Grad transfer from Bucknell. Had a good career there for 4 years. Comes in and puts up 30 in a huge win in Morgantown. Lost to George Mason in the opener, but this is clearly a Monmouth team that's been buried in the 300s the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
They're not going to be anywhere near the 300s this year. They're a quality team, and that's music to the CAA's ears, because I think that coming in, if we go back and watch our preseason show, we're like, we like the top 5 or 6 in this league. We don't know where 7, 8, 9, 10 are going to come from. Now we like, at least I'm just talking personally, I think Monmouth is at least solid. You have hope in teams like maybe even a William and Mary, maybe Northeastern, who knows. But and Stony Brook, who knows, right? But like, at least it's not dire straits for like the next 8 teams in a row. And Monmouth, even if Monmouth's the only team that emerges from the bottom, at least it's 7 instead of 6.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you have 14 teams in the league, you need more good teams to bring your league up.
This league's
think-
too bloated
yeah.
for an under the radar league.
Yeah.
Golly.
Exactly.
Where are we at here? Stalika, how about Conference USA? Here's a night league that's a
This is
great
a
size
nice
for under the radar.
9-team league. Yeah, here we
Yes.
go. This is
Well, it was a tad better last year when they had Florida Atlantic, UAB, Charlotte, etc.
We're talking about
but-
this year's league. With
Yeah.
nice, not 9 teams. Go ahead.
Well, the good news is this year they get Liberty and UTEP to pick up the slack. We've already hinted at UTEP getting a nice win on CBS Sports Network against the Gauchos of UC Santa Barbara, and Liberty also gets a decent neutral court win against Charlotte come Friday night. But also Middle Tennessee, they did have a slip up at home against Western Carolina, but figure on the Blue Raiders also being a contender this year in the conference.
I wouldn't overlook Western Kentucky yet
I-
either. They
yeah.
played well against Wichita State and losing that game. They won at Murray, which is not easy to do. So
I'm glad that game's back. The Murray Western game, the Western side of Kentucky. They used to play regularly. They hadn't played for a while. I'm glad it's back.
and you see the early results. The WAC and Conference USA have a challenge series going on throughout most of the season. I think 18 games total we played, and it's a 3-1 early WAC lead in that event. We'll track that over the next few weeks here until we get a final there. But the upcoming schedule here, Griggs. Anything else that you're circling specifically in this? league
This
here?
Liberty Furman game tomorrow, it kind of jumps out, and then Liberty just in this event. I mean, if they're going to sprint forward and make a splash, a run towards the NIT or a run towards the bubble, I think this event will be a big part of them being able to do that. UAB Middle Tennessee. I know UAB's not under the radar anymore, but like I think that despite the 1 and 2 start, they're going to end up being a big year. That's a big game for Middle.
And Rocco, you were celebrating there?
Well, I'm just excited to be. I'm be at the Liberty Furman game tomorrow. I'll be the.
Are you going to make it through all 4 games? It's a long day.
course.
Of course,
Come on,
Rocco
Chad.
will.
Of course.
He's got his jet.
Um,
He's going to a lot of games.
No, I think they're easily the 2 best games tomorrow are
Yeah.
completely full of under the radar, because we have the early game is Charleston, Vermont, like we talked about, and now we have Liberty Furman at the end. So if you want to go sleep on the beach in the middle of the day, it's perfectly fine, because those are the 2 games to watch.
That'd probably be exactly what I'm doing, although I got to get that 20-minute ride back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah,
let me stick-
Liberty's quality, and I mean they demolished a couple teams last week to really set themselves up for success coming into this.
Rocco, how about over in the Horizon League, the undefeated Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons off of that massive win in Chicago over DePaul? And then
Well,
they beat Andrews by almost 100 points,
yeah,
130 to 34. How about that score?
they did that, and then they demolished Texas A&M Commerce, which whatever transition school. But I think the story here is a couple things. So one, John Kaufman's a great coach. He's got a great track record. Hasn't exactly got the Mastodons all the way into the big dance, which is why he's kind of more of an under the radar topic instead of on the main, coaching carousel conversation. But who knows? But if he does something this year, he certainly will be. But I mean, there's a guy. There's multiple guys on this team that I've really come to like a lot, and one of them I wrote about in the offseason. Rashid Bello comes from a small school called Wisconsin Parkside, Division II. They were in the Division II NCAA tournament last year. He had amazing metrics across the board. He's playing outstanding. I talked to over this offseason. I talked to multiple coaches in leagues like the Sun Belt, Conference USA, kind of either Horizon League level or even a notch above. They all wanted this kid, and he ends up a Mastodon. And Quentin Morton Robertson playing extremely well as well. So I'm just saying, for a team that was picked 8th, they're already playing like a team that can win this league, and that's a credit to Kaufman's recruiting, but also Kaufman's coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And what they've got coming up this week, they got Northern Arizona, and then they either VMI or South Dakota in the small event that they're in here.
Most likely South Dakota.
Yeah, and then they'll actually have to turn around. They're the only team that has to play their on-campus game after the event. So they'll actually come to San Francisco on Wednesday, next
Okay.
Wednesday, a week from tonight. So that'll be very interesting as well.
Yep. Griggs, over in the actually we'll skip we already did the Ivy League, so let's jump ahead here, one to the Metro Atlantic.
We can do the Ivy League again.
We are not doing the Ivy League again. The Metro Atlantic instead, where Iona's 1-1, Marist is 2-0. I don't know. There's a ton to say here.
Not a whole lot
St.
yet.
Peter's at Fairleigh Dickinson actually played a great game last night. Great game tonight, Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Just
was a
ended
fun
before we came. two Cinderellas for the last couple of NCAA tournaments. Fairleigh Dickinson won it at the last minute.
And I know that this was a loss. I did like how Iona played at Charleston on opening night. I think Charleston's pretty good. And then especially with all of the changes they've gone through, sometimes I think all that Iona returned from a year ago was the laundry in the uniforms, sort of a brand new team. But I was kind of impressed in a losing effort, albeit how well they played against what we think is a pretty good Charleston team. Nothing much has jumped out at me other than that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you went to me for this one.
Yeah. I mean, Canisius had the win at
Yes.
St. Bonaventure. I kind of
Yeah,
liked it,
Canisius did
Awesome.
win at the
but they didn't do that well. But they lost they lost their other 2 games, including Cleveland State. So I don't know. But was this a win because it was the rivalry there, in the Western New York Big Four? Or
They do
was
that.
this
It
a
seems
good
like
team?
they do that. Yeah, it seems like they do that all the time in the Big Four, doesn't it?
Yeah, Canisius, and then you're like, they get your attention, and then you quit paying attention.
Right. It's hard to put faith in them historically, but I think
And yet the Golden Griffins have actually won 3 out of their last 4 against the Bonnies, which is actually pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
It really
kind
is.
of it. Yeah,
the year that they the Bonnies were off to that crazy start where they were like 18-0.
yeah.
I think
18-1, I think.
18-1, and the one loss was Canisius. Yeah, that's what it was.
It was. Yeah.
Yes, because that's the year I went there. I still remember that. That was awesome.
The beer hat man. God, I hope he's still there.
Yeah, Greco. Yeah.
Yeah. You know him? Oh, we gotta get him on.
We took a picture together when I was in Olean. It was great.
Here's the upcoming schedule in the league here. Our undefeated team, Marist, their next game is at Binghamton. Where's Canisius? Oh, they're hosting one of our favorite non-D1 schools, Dieuville, on Monday.
Don't miss that.
Yeah. I
Salika,
might miss that one.
in your neck of the woods, the Mid-American Conference, a couple of teams off to nice starts here, including Akron and Toledo.
Well, a lot of the games that were taking place over the past week were the first round of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. These were all predetermined games that were all played at MAC sites right here. Kent State had the tough loss against James Madison in overtime. Akron actually got a pretty nice win against Southern Miss to salvage some pride for the MAC right here. And Toledo. They also get a win against the Louisiana team that was in the NCAA tournament last year, and also got a 1-point win at Wright State last night. So the Rockets seem to be doing their usual peak in November, but probably going to come tailing off around January or February.
Yeah, I'd say a little disappointing though out of the MAC. They did win the first round of the MAC Sunbelt Challenge 7-5, but all 12 games being at home, only to take it 7-5. I
Yeah.
think they're in a lot of trouble to win this event when they play 12 games at Sunbelt schools in February.
Yeah.
Maybe the surprise though of the conference just came just minutes before we started this show, Rocco. Central Michigan, who was picked pretty much dead last,
Yeah.
went to South Florida, who was supposed to be improved this year,
I
and
know.
beat them.
Yeah, that shocked me.
Well,
I mean,
the directional school, Michigan schools, the idea that they're beating anyone. Oh, go ahead.
Well, they were one of the big disappointments of the challenge with the Sun Belt, because they let UL Monroe, who's arguably the worst Sun Belt team, come in to Mount Pleasant of all places and beat them by double figures. So they lose at home to UL Monroe, but then they go to South Florida and get the W. It's just, and in between they went to Florida State and got destroyed like we expected. So Chad, I have no explanation. I'm learning just like you.
I think that's a fluke game that is going to end up being ignored at the end of the day. But
South Florida's got all new guys. They have talented guys and a good coach. I'm just surprised they would even mess around with that team.
A team we got to talk about is Akron, starting off the season with the win in South Dakota State. I know it was home.
Sure.
Southern Miss, a really good Sun Belt team. Perhaps not as good as JMU, but really good. We'll get to them in a second. I think Akron's off to a fantastic start.
Yeah.
I think they're top 50, top 40 caliber team. I was saying that before the start of the year. And I would just like to point out how correct I am right now.
You were
Akron,
great. You were amazing.
It's just amazing.
They would get they got Florida International to start their event on Sunday. Then they could get Marshall or Utah State, and they could end up with a Drake even in the championship game.
That's a great game.
Which I think will be a really fun game if we can get that Akron Drake game on Tuesday. So under the
I'm
radar.
also excited about their UNLV visit right after that. That'll be fun.
Yes. I don't think it's even on the screen. I think that might be.
It's on the
28th.
28th. Yeah. It's a Tuesday. Yeah.
Rocco, how about the MEAC? Is there anything? Let's see. We do have a couple. Actually, no. I think we have a team that we do have to discuss a lot here, and that is Howard. Two D1 wins already, and including over Georgetown. And on top of that, they got the news that Seth Towns, who has been, sorry,
they didn't beat Georgetown.
Howard beat. Who did they beat then?
Hampton and Boston U.
Boston U. Okay, sorry, Hampton. Boston. They're better than Georgetown, though.
They're better than Georgetown.
Well, this other team called Holy Cross. We'll talk.
Holy Cross, yeah, they're all H's. But the news that Seth Towns, who has been playing college basketball for 387 years, he got his waiver. He gets to play an 8th season of college basketball now for Howard. He spent several years with Harvard, where he was recruited originally by Tommy Howard. Yeah, then he spent some time in Ohio State. He spent some time somewhere else as well, I think. Now for Howard, I think this Howard team could be a pretty darn good team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean they're picked to win the league without him. So with him, it's fascinating because he comes back last night, and we're recording this on a Wednesday for the audience. So on Tuesday he comes back. He played 25 minutes, scored 13 points, 6 boards, a block, a steal. I mean, it's not like he's a slouch. So
this is the guy when Harvard was supposed to be the class of the Ivy League. He was Tommy Amaker's huge recruit that was going to lead the way to Harvard to all these Ivy League championships. This was the guy.
And even when he was on Ohio State in the preseason, it was enough to make him a 4 seed instead of an 8 seed, right? So like he's been a needle mover at every stage. I'm just wondering at this point, is he 35 or 37?
The other question is, can he stay healthy? Because he has so many.
It is amazing.
So. Let's hope so for his sake. Yeah.
It is amazing that he's getting, I think, an 8th season, but that doesn't happen.
He already has happening. He already has two. He already has 2 graduate degrees, from what I understand. so,
Yeah.
so they gotta keep finding
Which
more
is
courses
awesome,
to send
which
him
is
to.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. He's
Yeah.
used his time well and profited himself for it. So
Yes.
Howard's upcoming schedule. Let's see, where are they here on the screen? They are actually at my Rutgers Scarlet Knights on Saturday, so we're gonna get a tough one there, and then they go to
So you're
Bryant
not
on
gonna
Monday.
you're not gonna sleep well on Friday, Chad.
Not well. At least Rutgers looks like they're okay against the worst team in DC tonight against Georgetown. See how they do against the best team in DC coming up here. Griggs, how about the Missouri Valley Conference
how
instead,
about
then?
it? How about the Braves? Starting off with a big win at UAB, and they've just looked really good since then. I'm still really big on Drake. They just have the 1D1 win, but I don't know. This is a strong league, at least at the very top of it. Evansville, I don't think Evansville's going to. I'm still not expecting much of them at all. But 2-0 against D1 to start off with. But Bradley, I think, is the team that's impressed me the most so far.
Mhm. I would agree with Griggs. Bradley goes to UAB on opening night, and that's a really tough place to win in a quality
Yeah.
squad. And then we don't know a lot about Utah State yet. We just know that they are in a somewhat high major conference, brand new roster, brand new coach. They bring them in. It's a really tough game, but they get it done in overtime. And then I actually think this Tarleton team's really solid. They got a great player, an all WAC player, and Bradley just totally demolished them from the opening.
Yeah, Bradley just.
Yeah, 23-point win. And I'm very excited for Monday, guys, because I will be at the SoCal Challenge Monday all day, and they open up with Tulane. So I think that's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, a team that has not gotten out of the blocks quick is Northern Iowa. And I know they've only played 1D1 game, and you can't throw in the towel yet. We were expecting a lot from them, or at least I was. Haven't shown out yet, but maybe this is the week they start to.
Well, they played North Texas on the road in the opening game, so it's like, and they lost in overtime. So I think they're fine from what we know right now. Personally, I mean, because they're obviously extremely competitive in that game.
Well, their next game is going to be at South Florida, and then coming up a week from tonight, they play North Carolina
in the battle for Atlantis. So in the
yes.
Atlantis, they're going to play 3 high major teams, and then we'll know.
They really got to win that game in South Florida. Now that we know South Florida does not appear to be very good after tonight,
and they might not win any in Atlantis.
Yeah, it's tricky with South Florida, Chad, because they're gonna go like this. So it's just timing. Yeah. It's all about timing.
Well, hopefully they got him at the right time for Northern Iowa's sake.
Yes.
Stalika over in the Northeast Conference. Fairleigh Dickinson, we mentioned it earlier. They had that great win tonight against St. Peter's. The only team with 2 D1 wins in this league so far now.
They got the win tonight, but they were playing with loaded matches right here. They had, I think it was a 12 or 13 point lead in the final 4 minutes and nearly blew the lead and fell behind by a point with about 12 seconds to go. But fortunately, were able to hit a couple free throws after getting fouled with 2.2 on the clock, and they were able to escape with a 1-point win at home. And then you look at Sacred Heart, who is beat a Holy Cross team that just come off of a win against Georgetown. So Sacred Heart showing some signs as to why they were actually the preseason pick to win the NEC in some circles.
I'll tell you, the other team not to look past at all, they are now postseason eligible, is this Merrimack team, a road win at Maine. And you look at the final score, it's going to say they lost 76-52 to Ohio State. This was a game well into the second half before they fell apart tonight. So this Merrimack team was hung with Ohio State for quite a while tonight.
Well, as our colleague Zach would say, I'm looking at 2 ships passing in the night with Merrimack winning at Maine on Sunday.
Okay. Here's the upcoming schedule. Sacred Heart is at UMBC and then plays Loyola, Maryland. A few other games are all up there. Fairleigh Dickinson is going to be at Queens. Rocco, you going back to Queens Wednesday? They got FDU in town.
I would love to, but no. I would recommend everybody go to Queens. That place is a really unique place to see.
The atmosphere is
so cool.
There. Yeah,
so cool.
Rocco, they're going to be a solid D1 program once they're through the transition.
100%.
Yeah, let me stick with you, Rocco, here in the Ohio Valley Conference, where I really don't know what we can talk about at this point. But
Tennessee State.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
That's
mean,
the story. That's the
yeah,
story.
it
Because
really
right
is.
as we
speak,
record this, they're crushing Portland on the road by
that's
21 points.
nuts.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the same building where the Pilots handled Long Beach, which in the majority of under the radar top 25s, you'll see Long Beach is in everybody's top 25. So should we be putting the Tennessee State Tigers in our under the radar poll?
Well,
I
I got to
didn't.
see a D1 win first. It looks like we're about to get it, but we've got to actually see it go final.
And they go to Oregon. They go to Oregon right after this too.
At Portland actually Wednesday night, and
Well,
then
that's
at
right
Oregon
now.
on Friday.
Well, that's right.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is
they're at
the-
Oregon. Yeah, they're at
And
Oregon.
then,
on Friday.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading the screen.
Two
Reading the
games
screen
win.
without thinking.
It's all good. And then if they can win so they're part of the Emerald Coast Classic, which is why they're up there in Oregon. When they eventually get back to Florida, they'll play, I think, Sela. And Sela was picked second in the Southland. We'll get to the Southland pretty soon. And there's some beatable teams. So anyway, if Tennessee State could really emerge, I think Little Rock did a really nice job in the portal. KK Robinson, keep your eye on him. He's a Texas A&M transfer player. High major point guard level, but he's playing for Little Rock. And then I think Edwardsville, I think they're banged up right now, but I think at some point they're going to be tough.
Yeah, just quick look here. They actually start with Mercer in the
Mercer. Yeah,
and
so
they-
there you go.
they're going to start with Mercer, and then they'll get either Southeastern Louisiana or Western Michigan in the Emerald Coast Classic, the visitors bracket, what they call it, of that event.
So if they win that thing and then they win tonight, that's a team to keep your eye on.
Oh yeah.
Griggs, the Patriot League and the
Oh, boy.
Colgate Raiders,
Oh,
who were up 20, almost
Oh.
20 points, or wasn't
Oh,
it full
my.
20 points on Syracuse last night, but I see the game in red there as a loss.
I don't know what was more amazing was that Colgate got up by so much, or that they blew the lead after getting up by that much. Look, Colgate's clearly a good team. I think they're hands down better than anyone else in the league. Everyone's going to be chasing them. There are happy days ahead, but as a showcase moment for that program to win on the road against a regional opponent, like a regional brand name opponent, sort of the alpha of the region, that one might sting a little bit. That might be bothering them for a while.
Yeah, but I don't think at the end of the day, this team is still better than anybody else in this league. It should be
by
a
a-
NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they might be better. If you were to field an all-star team of everybody else and have them play Colgate, it would probably be a pretty good game.
Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, if they had won that game, maybe it's a seed line adjustment in the NCAA tournament. But I don't know if it is, because I really don't know if Syracuse is really that good anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. I think at the end of the day, like, they don't have time to think about it because they got to turn around and get ready for Yale on Friday, and then obviously two other really tough games Saturday and Sunday.
Again, watch that Atlanta Slam. Those 6 games are going to be amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
If I wasn't in Myrtle Beach, I would be there.
Rocco Miller put that entire event together himself.
I'm not allowed to go back to Canada, but I wanted to go.
That's why I put it together, so you wouldn't be able to go.
Stalika, let's hit the SoCon and let's talk a little bit about Western Carolina, the team we all liked heading to the season, and they proved it at Notre Dame over the weekend.
Yeah, we were talking about
proved it last night too.
Justin Gray's team being a potential sleeper right here. Notre Dame is a team that's going to be reloading themselves, but that's not a game that Western Carolina would historically win. And getting a 10-point win is obviously going to be a good sign for the Catamounts. But as the puppet pointed out, also getting a win at Middle Tennessee State. So there was no letdown here. And MTSU, not an easy place to win either.
And Griggs, Chattanooga, though, a couple decent wins. I mean, Louisville is bad, but
Louisville
is slightly better than they were last year because they've actually been able to beat somebody this season. They could not beat Chattanooga. And Chattanooga beat Bellarmine as well.
Whether or not Coppin State is somebody is up for debate, but
Louisville couldn't even win that game last year, so that's all I gotta say.
So, Chattanooga. I mean, off to a good start, but I guess I'm mostly big on Western Carolina. I know Greensboro will probably come through. Samford's let me down a little bit. No shame in losing at Purdue, but I thought they'd play a little bit better than than what they have so far. But
And-
again, it's early. I
and
like
if-
Buckyball. I'm in on
and,
Buckyball.
and Furman beat Belmont by more than 20 points. So you
Yeah.
know, let's not overlook Furman at all as we go and head through this season here.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at them very closely tomorrow, Chad.
Rocco will be seeing them. He'll be seeing them against Liberty.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this a few times already. We're hitting these games both ways here.
Hey, you're what? You're only an hour from the Citadel. Are they at home this weekend?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Let's see. They do not appear on the screen until Monday against Idaho State.
But
So
Saturday, I think the game to watch. This is super under the radar here, but it's awesome. We've got Western Carolina hosting McNeese. That game,
Yeah.
that game is going to be superb. There's going to actually be potentially NBA, like you know how the NBA is these days. You can play your way through the G League. There could be potentially NBA players on both teams in that game.
And McNeese, who we'll get to in a second, off to a good start themselves.
I'll tell you what, Griggs, let's get right to McNeese. Let's get to the Southland Conference.
Yeah. And
As it loads here on the screen here, give it a second. And there is McNeese 4-0 with one D1 win, although it was at VCU.
it was at VCU. And in something that we don't often say is, wow, what a great showing by this particular Southland team ever since SFA and Sam Houston left. But that was, and it is not easy to win at VCU. I know that they're sort of in rebuild mode. A lot of their players transferred out and they lost their coach, but that's still a high caliber road win. And it's one of two. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was the only other D1 win was Lamar over who?
Oh, Lamar beat San Antonio. No, there's three, though. The Nicholls State, huge road win at
LSU.
LSU.
Oh,
though,
yeah, Nichols over LSU. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
so-
they
so-
lost today. Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost to Denver badly in a game that they're playing.
In-
Those games are
Well, they
being
were
played
up at half.
those games are playing it at being played in South Alabama, part of a
Mobile. Yeah.
Mobile.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yes,
South
that is the
Alabama.
flagship LSU, not LSU Shreveport.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're usually on the LSU Shreveport podcast. We're never on,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
never
we're
on the
not
LSU podcast.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that, Stalika.
As far
That
as
was awesome.
McNeese goes, after that they also have Texas State and a road trip to Louisiana Tech coming up early next week. And take a quick look at what Nichols got. I'll highlight their games too. They're at South Alabama. They got Edwardsville in that event, and huge game against Blue Mountain. I think they're taking on an entire mountain in that game.
I guess Howard Payne wasn't available.
Where were we?
I
Stalika.
wonder why Zach Edey never transferred to Blue Mountain.
I know. Yeah.
What's up with that? They don't have enough NIL, I guess.
Yeah.
Salika, if we look on the screen here, we do see in the past week one D1 road win for the SWAC when Prairie View won at Abilene Christian, who had already beaten Oklahoma State. So,
That
so nice
I
win by
could
Prairie View.
not
Well,
believe
you also
that.
have to give
Yeah.
Pine Bluff a little credit. They did win at Central Arkansas. I mean, it was
Okay.
not the football field that I've apparently discovered is another glorious work of art. I don't think they're
Whoever
basketball.
did that should be put in jail. God.
There's the SWAC standings. Unfortunately, already looking like a league that's on its way to the 16 line. But maybe something could happen here. Maybe Prairie View can pick up a few wins, or maybe Texas Southern will finish in 8th place and win the conference tournament, as they always do. A lot of bye games on here on the schedule coming up this week. A lot of bye games.
Yeah.
And when they are at home, they're doing stuff like hosting Trinity Baptist, which score update, Bethune-Cookman did win that game 104-63 tonight. So
Oh, good. All right.
congrats
That's
to
very breaking news here at Under the Radar.
Rocco. How about the Summit League?
I love it. And,
Great analysis, Rock.
And let's move on to the next coverage.
Nothing but the best here.
I think South Dakota had a nice game over UTRGV where they put up a hundo, but a little unfortunate they lost by 12 at DePaul when everybody else has been winning at DePaul.
Not the ball.
Maybe caught him at the wrong time. A little disappointed that Oral Roberts wasn't more competitive at Missouri State, their local rival. They play almost every year.
And how about them only beating Mid-American Christian by 5? That they almost lost that game to a non-D1
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, I mean they're transitioning with Russell Springman, so it's an evolution, and I think the Summit League's not known for their defense, so that's why we love it. But it's a wide open crapshoot. South Dakota State, the heavy favorite, disappointing, not competitive with a banged up Kansas State team, so that wasn't a great sign. I still love the league though. Denver beat Nichols today, so we can praise Denver. And then I think Kansas City took some lumps last night against Baylor. Overall, like David said about a few other leagues earlier, they're just going through the lumps of getting their paychecks. And unfortunately, there's no like Oral Roberts of last year. I was hoping South Dakota State could be that, but I think last night showed us they're nowhere near kind of that high major level like we hope they could be.
Yeah,
I would like to congratulate the Summit League on getting half the AFC North at the top of the league.
Denver, Kansas City. South Dakota State plays Sunday against UCF, and then could play George Mason or Charlotte. Then a game against Southern Miss, but
which is in Hattiesburg, by the way.
In Hattiesburg, yeah. Over in the Sun Belt Conference, Salika, we are not allowed to discuss James Madison, but how about the rest of the league, which, as we mentioned, trails 7-5 in the challenge against the MAC, which will pick up again in February.
Yeah, only 7-5, but I'm sure the deck's probably going to be stacked way in the Sun Belt's favor because they are going to determine these matchups in January. So I would probably be looking for Akron to probably be the fatted calf taking their lumps at James Madison, although that should be a good game if that comes to fruition right here.
That might be a game between two top 25 teams by that point.
Yeah, they will set those matchups a few weeks before those games, so they will get the top team in both conferences to play each other. So that is, I do like that kind of an old bracket buster style type of late matchup, although there's only 2 leagues here. The upcoming games in this league, again, aside from James Madison, who we're going to pretend doesn't exist, they're not under the radar. They are number 24 in the AP poll. The big games are the ones that Rocco's going to be at again tomorrow because Coastal Carolina, obviously in their home event, they're playing Wichita State to start tomorrow night.
I'm really, really low on Coastal Carolina, to be honest. Like, I really don't like their team. I think, but if there's ever hope, they've got to do something this week. Like, I don't know if it has to be the Wichita game tomorrow. It just, out of all these teams that are here, it's all pretty good programs coming here. Just beat somebody on your home court.
There is no hope.
And if you go 0-3 and you're not competitive in any of the games, then it's like, holy moly, Cliff Ellis might need to step aside by January. And I hate to say that, but where I'm at with these guys.
He's been there forever.
He's had an incredible career.
Yeah, he's had a great career. And now he can move 20 minutes down the road and just hang out on the beach.
As we record this in Seattle at the Climate Pledge Arena, the undefeated Seattle team is down pretty big, actually, to Northern Arizona at home. But
I did not realize that.
Yes,
so on that, one of their key players, John Christophilus, he's a Creighton transfer, originally from Seattle Prep, known him for years. Had 18, led all scorers in their opener. Unfortunately for John, went down in the second game. He's out 8 weeks, and they barely escaped Montana State the other night. So even though Northern Arizona is not expected to do much, I know that the Seattle team is regrouping, and it's a tough week for them.
Yeah, they're playing a Northern Arizona team that Grand Canyon is also their conference, just blew out by 35 points the other day, so 34 points. So tough times, and we may need to be looking more at Grand Canyon for the next few weeks here, maybe as the team to watch in the WAC.
And a little disappointed that Utah Valley didn't bring it a little bit more against Charlotte. I really thought that was a game.
They no-showed tonight.
Yeah, I thought they would go and be really good against them, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah. Here's the upcoming schedule, the other remaining games here. Grand Canyon, that I think we mentioned this game earlier, they're playing San Francisco on Friday. That's a real interesting game. And then they could get to Paul or South Carolina on Sunday. Maybe that's the team to watch this week. In fact, if we look at this schedule, anything else you're looking at?
Utah Tech and Lake Erie, naturally.
I think not that I'm expecting UTA to pull it off, but them at New Mexico on Thursday night is interesting because they got some talent. They're off to a nice little start. And New Mexico might not have Jalen House still, so who knows? Maybe the Mavs might surprise some people.
And to keep an eye on Abilene Christian, their first round game of their event on Friday against Tim Miles and San Jose State.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah. Whenever Tim Miles is coaching basketball, everyone should stop and look. What?
One more team to discuss. It is Chicago State. They did win at Southern Indiana, but other than that, it's been a little bit of rough going
Yeah.
as they cannot win a lawsuit to force the NCAA to take players that should clearly not be eligible to play on their teams. But go ahead, Griggs.
Losing at home to Mercer was kind of a surprise. I think that they can make some noise this year. After going undefeated at home last year, losing at home to Mercer and Cal State Northridge, we're still overall, at least I am, and I don't mean this as a backhanded comment at all, really impressed with the progress they've made over the last couple years. But I was kind of expecting them to win one of those and maybe even both of them. I don't know where you are on them, Rocco, but I thought that Northridge and Mercer, I thought were within their range. I guess not.
Yeah, they're in their range, but the scores show that. Like, I think they weren't blown out or anything. I think couple things. One, two of the guys they really hoped would get eligible from Overtime Elite. We talked about them in the
Yeah.
preseason show. They did not get approved. So now instead of like a really nice starting five, they've got 3 of the 5. And there's a big drop off after those 2. So there's that. And then the other part is, they're so they're adjusting to life without those guys. And they're Mercer came in after losing to a non D1 team, probably a little extra hungry. That wasn't good. And I think this Northridge team, we didn't talk about them in the Big West segment, but under Andy Newman, brand new coach, they've been bringing it. They almost knocked off Stanford in the opener. That game was awesome. So I'm really loving where this Northridge program's going. So some of it is Chicago State, but the other thing is these other teams have their own things going on as well. So it's just. But it's not like Chicago State's getting beat by 20 plus or anything.
I don't get it. I look at my screen here and I see they are number 1 in the net. They are number 1 in the KPI. They are number 1 in the Sagarin rating. They play the number 1 strength of schedule of the nation.
They're a 1 seed.
They're 1 seed easily. They got Southern Illinois, Northern Colorado, and either Morgan State or Radford coming up this week. But that concludes all our regular conferences. But we got a couple of mythical conferences to get here. Let's start things off in the Beehive Conference, which saw our first conference game, Utah State, with the early lead in conference standings with that win over Southern Utah the other night. So congrats to Utah State, tried to maintain the old Ochre bucket, which we think they have.
I think they do. Yeah, we know they're hiding it somewhere. We will find it.
No, unless you count Utah Tech versus Lake Erie, Slika. No actual games coming up in the Beehive Conference this week, though.
Nope.
We also have we got the Front Range Conference. We have Colorado State with the early lead with that win at Northern Colorado Tuesday.
Big win at Northern Colorado. Front Range war.
Let's see if we have any Front Range games coming up this week. These are teams from Colorado, Wyoming. This is one of our favorite
Colorado Christian at Denver.
All right, that's a kind of a almost one.
Yeah.
So we have the Beehive, the teams in Utah. We have all the Front Range teams in Colorado and Wyoming. Last year we started another mythical conference, though. Yes, it is the Back Range.
Yes. And
Arizona.
UTEP got invited.
UTEP go. They go right there with New Mexico State. This is the Back Range, New Mexico and Arizona schools and UTEP. The Lopes with the early conference lead. They beat Northern Arizona the other night.
Are we going to invite New Mexico Highlands while we're at it?
Well,
sure.
You know what? New Mexico State beat Western New Mexico Tuesday night, but somehow did not get reflected in the standings. That's let's see if we got any games coming up here. No conference games, but guys, I was thinking we have the Front Range, we have the Back Range. When we look a little further north, we're kind of a little bit short. Seems like Idaho, Montana, eastern half of the state of Washington,
The Cascade Range.
It's the Top Range.
Yeah.
That's our newest mythical conference. We have Washington State, Boise State, Gonzaga, Montana State, Idaho State, Eastern Washington, and Idaho. Yeah.
They're all separated by 6 miles.
Now I want to say you look at this, you say, well, Gonzaga is going to easily win this conference. I took a look at Gonzaga's schedule. They failed to schedule a single conference game this year. They cannot win. This conference is wide open this year.
They're not playing
Beautiful.
Washington or Wazoo.
No.
Washington's not in this conference. They're not.
Oh,
in
Yeah,
Washington's not in
Washington's.
this.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not
Washington-
Eastern Washington. Yeah,
No,
Western
they're-
Washington.
Yeah, they're the other half of the state.
Yeah.
But we got Northwest Washington at Idaho State coming up tomorrow night, so that might be a conference game here.
Yeah.
Uh,
The top rank.
Idaho crossing the top range to play Seattle. On Wednesday.
Chad, I gotta know, how long were you sitting on this?
Only about a day or so. Walla Walla's at Eastern
Chad-
Washington.
Chad
So it
needs
wasn't
extra reasons
September and you're
to
like,
care about
oh,
the
I
West
got
Coast.
it. The top range.
Well, I'll tell you that future years I got to look at what other conferences we could do. I was thinking we could go into like the Dakotas
yeah.
maybe, and all those Dakota schools. I got a great name for it too. We could call it the Summit League.
The Summit League, yes.
Oh, wait.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, that already is a conference,
Yeah.
isn't it? But anyhow, let's go to our top 10 lists.
Yeah.
Hoops HD top 10. We all voted the top 10 teams
How
here.
many HMs are there? 30?
Oh,
Honor,
shitload
yeah, a
of
lot.
them.
It's just been a busy.
Penn, Lowell, Grand Canyon, Toledo, Colgate, Wilmington, Presbyterian, Chattanooga, and even Cornell getting votes for honorable mentions. McNeese State, actually, they showed up there. They should have showed up on the next line, but they're tied for 10th place.
Okay.
But coming in, also
Well
tied
done,
with McNeese
Cowboys.
for 10 is Liberty. So two-way tie for 10th place between Liberty and McNeese State. At number
But-
9, we've got Portland State.
It's a big win. Yeah. Big start that they're off to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Drake at number 8.
Yeah.
I think they were at the top of our list preseason, so they already
They
felt big
were,
time.
but everybody else is sort of, again, they'll get their opportunities though. Wow.
Number 7, UC Irvine.
They lost
Despite
to
a
Tim
loss,
Miles.
Yeah.
despite
to
the
Tim
loss to
Miles,
San
I was
Jose
there.
State, I did not vote for them. The Griggs
Well,
and
the
Fleeka
loss to
thought-
10 miles doesn't count.
just overrated that USC game. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tim Miles losses are numb.
How
Yeah.
about those Western Carolina Catamounts coming in at number 6 here?
I don't
That's
think
a good
they've
vote.
ever been
That's
in
a
our
good vote.
poll. I don't think they've ever been
No.
honorably mentioned. Welcome Catamounts to the under the radar top 10.
You should tag them on the post, Chad.
Yeah.
We will. All right. 4th place, we got a
Team of
two-way
the people.
tie between Akron and Yale. I think two
Yeah.
very good teams here.
Those are, yeah. Akron is so good.
Those two are here to stay.
Yeah.
At number 3, we've got Weber State. We have two Big Sky teams in the top 10. How about that? Portland
Yeah.
State and Weber State.
It's about time. It's about time.
Right.
At number 2, we have Bradley.
Deserved.
Yeah.
Deservedly
It
so,
is.
way up there. And we gave a little drum roll here if I can find it. There it is. The drum roll for the number 1 under the radar team for November 15, 2023. It is
Wow.
the Princeton
Wow.
Tigers.
Yeah.
Number 1. And look at that.
Outstanding.
Princeton, Yale, Penn, and Cornell both getting honorable mentions. That's half the Ivy League on the screen right there. That's why they were our feature conference tonight.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I'm almost more impressed by Harvard than any of them.
And yeah, they didn't even make the honorable mention.
They're not even
Yeah.
on the- yeah, they're not even on the-
We got to get Brown and Columbia up here too. Come on. Let's pull this down here and run to any final thoughts. Salika, let me start with you.
I think I want to go back to the top range, Cascade Range, or whatever we're calling it. I think we do need to consider expanding and getting Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, and Seattle in there.
Wait,
Especially since Oregon State and Washington State now hold the autonomy over control of a fading conference.
But here's the problem. We'd be at like 10 or 12 teams. And didn't we just say earlier that that's too many teams for a
Yeah.
conference?
No, we said 14 was too many. 12 will work.
I don't really I kind of like the 8-team conferences, the old fashioned type. But Rocco, your final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts are, it's good to get the juices flowing under the radar. A lot of good conversation. There's so many untold stories. We could be on here for 8 hours and still have untold stories. But I think, one of the things to keep in mind is you got teams like Western Carolina. You get awesome stories like McNeese, Wilmington, Akron, etc. But you can't forget about the Charlestons, the Northern Iowas, and even a team like a Kent State. There's a team that's over the radar now that we're not allowed to talk about from the Sun Belt Conference, that their initials rhyme with AMU. And this team should have probably beat that team if it wasn't for a miracle shot. And so it's Kent State. I think Kent State's very, very good. Toledo got a tough road win in the Nutter Center yesterday.
God, yeah, they did.
And so there's so much quality beyond the teams we even discussed, and I think that's what I want to call out. College of Charleston had a bad night against Duquesne, but does that mean College of Charleston is written off? Absolutely not. We're going to learn a lot about them this week, starting tomorrow morning, and so I think I'm just always looking at the big picture, and there's it's so hard to even pick a top 10 because there's literally 40 to 60 to 80 teams that are always kind of on the cusp of emerging into the top 10 discussion.
Yeah, when we get to January, we'll probably be down to about only a small handful of honorable mentions. But I think I actually cut off a few teams that's off the bottom of the list there even this week because that may have gone just one single honorable mention vote because there was a lot of teams that are there and they will be there. And Griggs, I feel it's almost a little bit more this year than prior years. Maybe it isn't, but it just seems that way, I think.
Well, that was going to basically be the basis of my final thought. And to kind of build on what Rocco said and what you were doing is this year, we've been doing this a while. I don't remember when we first started doing it, but one of the reasons we started Hoops HD, this was one of the things that you and I basically demanded that we would be included, was the Under the Radar podcast. So we've been following these 22-ish conferences.
Griggs, it was November of 2012. If you want to go back and watch it, please don't. We were horrible back then. We're only bad now. We were horrible back then.
Yeah. But I don't remember. I mean, all the changes in college basketball, it seems like whether it was doing away with, or I'm sorry, like having the one-time transfer apply to basketball, whereas before it hadn't, in the transfer portal, when that came along, all the speculation was that it would put a larger gap between the under the radar schools and the power schools. And I'm almost thinking the opposite has occurred. And I don't know why that would be. I'm sure Rocco has a lot of theories. Perhaps it's an opportunity for guys that weren't getting minutes at power programs to enter the portal and transfer down, but not just this week. I mean, this week was not an anomaly. We saw Princeton in the Sweet 16. We saw St. Peter's in the Elite Eight. More and more under the radar teams are winning. I remember when it was considered unusual to have the 14, 15, 16. You were lucky if you got one into the round of 32. Now it's common, like you expect multiple teams to do it. And look at the first week and a half we've had just this year. The number of under the radar wins going on the road and beating power conference teams, some of them really good teams on the road. I think these teams are better than they were when we first started doing this.
Griggs, I should also add, had Xavier not come back in their first round game, we would have had a 13, 14, 15, and 16 win in the first round last year.
Wow. Yeah. So I think we're off to a great start this season, and it's really going to start revving up. Actually, just starting tomorrow, correct? With all these tournaments. Rocco, you'll be at one of them, and we're going to be going. I think
Feast Week is here.
11-day long week that we call Feast Week. It'll be going through the following Sunday. There is a ton of great tournament action. Check out the in-season tournament tab up there for all those brackets. If we're lucky, I'll be able to get them updated as games go final. If we're not, then close to it. But on behalf of David Griggs, John Salika, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, and from Queens, North Carolina, and from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and from New Brunswick, Canada, and from a few other places. I'm Chad Sherwood.
SoCal Challenge on Monday.
Yeah, SoCal Challenge too. We said he's at every game, and he really is at every game. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll talk to you again real soon.